Welcome back, Los Angeles, to another edition of the LA Football Show here in the LA Football Network. We are live on the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, hanging out with us. This is going to be your Chargers edition of the show, and this is going to be a lot of fun, Jamal. We're doing this off the cuff, little improvisation. You know, we are in not even the middle of June anymore, the end of June. There is literally nothing going on. OTAs and mini camps are done. There's any news out there is purely rumors and speculative. So why are we going to waste time talking about that? So seeing as Jamal and I are big movie buffs, and randomly, my good friend here, the Madman, brought up the Italian Job out of nowhere. Phenomenal Mark Wahlberg, Donald Sutherland film. We thought, let's talk what did we decide on? The Chargers Job, the Italian Chargers, basically choosing Chargers players or staff that would fill out the Italian Job cast.
Love it.
Should be a lot of fun. Jamal, Madni, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Doing well, Ryan. You know, you and I both have such a great passion for movies. Figured this would be really fun. I think the origin of this, Ryan, truthfully, is interview we did last night with Rob Booker, the new UCLA recruit who flipped from Wisconsin. And I got on the show and I said, Rob, you know, you're probably too young for this, but I'm going to start calling you Handsome Rob Booker from the Italian Job. And here we go. Maybe it's the Bolt Job, right? You know, and who from the Chargers would make up the crew to take that heist? And in the case of the Italian Job, it was $30 million worth of gold. And I think in the case of the Bolts, it's that Lombardi trophy here at the end. Can they heist that Lombardi trophy from the jaws of the Kansas City Chiefs and make it happen?
Oh, that was well said. Look at that. That's like you just wrote the back page of the book right there.
There you go.
Synopsis on the Chargers season, the Bolt Job. And I think we're going to have to get a video production crew in here to make this come to life after this episode is over. This is going to be fun. As always, brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Put your chips in on the Bolt Job and bet on these players and this team, because after we break this down, hopefully the prize at the end, that beautiful Lombardi, will live right here in LA. BetOnline.ag, promo code BELIEVE. Tell them the guys at the LA Football Network sent you. So everyone that, if you haven't seen the movie, Italian Job, came out in 2003, Donald Sutherland, Mark Wahlberg, Jason Statham, Edward Norton, Charlize Theron, Seth Green, Yasmin Bey. It's a phenomenal film. Underrated film, forgotten film, if you will, Jamal. I mean, here we are, 20 years since it came out. I don't know what it's streaming on at the moment, but I'm sure you could find it. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. I will go ahead, Jamal, and list the characters.
Yeah.
Let's do this quickly. You have a good, I don't want to put you on the spot. We literally are doing this on the cuff. We're just doing this on the fly. You have a pretty good feeling of what each character does in their role. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. So if I say like this character, and then I'll let you give a little synopsis of the character.
Sure. That sounds great. You know, this is like show and tell back in school. I can't, exactly. I'm so excited. I feel like I'm back in theater in high school.
Exactly. So before we get to the Chargers and who's going to fill these roles, we got to know what the roles are. And especially if people haven't seen the movie. So Italian Job, essentially the plot of it is there's this crew of thieves, if you will, that go to Venice and they steal a bunch of gold in the beginning of the movie. Well, and then one member in their crew backstabs them, takes the gold. And so then the rest of the movie is the crew getting back together and plotting to steal the gold back from the backstabber, if you will. Is that a decent plot synopsis?
It. Oh, it was fantastic. That was incredible.
And not to mention, well, I don't want to, this will probably get ruined throughout the show.
Well, anyway. You know, Ryan, we're also acting like this movie just came out in theaters, and it came out in, I believe, 2001. So it's 22 years old. So I think it's okay. I think there's a statute of limitations on spoilers, and I think it's about 20 years. I think it's fair game.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just say this. Spoiler alert. Skip ahead 20 seconds if you don't want to hear this. The leader of the crew in the beginning of the movie, played by Donald Sutherland, John Bridger, ends up getting killed during the initial heist, which is the reason why everyone wants to get back together to go against the backstabber. So Jamal, Donald Sutherland, John Bridger, if you want to give a quick synopsis on his role, at least in the first.
He's the mentor. He's the teacher of the whole crew. He's spent his whole life being a thief, learned many things, was in prison from time to time. He's the father of Charlize Theron's character, and he is the mentor of Mark Wahlberg's character, but he is the father figure and really the teacher.
Perfect. So then next we have Mark Wahlberg, who plays Charlie Crocker, who is the mentee of Donald Sutherland. You probably don't need to add a ton more, but he is obviously kind of the main character.
He's the mastermind, Ryan. He's the guy who can put it all together. He's the visionary. He's the leader of the crew, and the torch has been passed from Donald Sutherland to Mark Wahlberg, and it's his crew, and he's the center of the attraction.
Yes, and the only thing I will add to that is while Charlize Theron is the daughter of Donald Sutherland, Mark Wahlberg is basically the son that he never had and is treated thus so. And so that's kind of a fun riff between the two characters. Moving on. So that's an easy segue. Charlize Theron, she plays Stella Bridger, John Bridger's daughter. You can give a brief synopsis on her.
So Charlize Theron, obviously gorgeous, and she is the daughter, but she plays sort of a safe opener. And that's the other piece here that Donald
FBI,
Sutherland's character he's a safe opener. He's a master safe cracker. And so his daughter is followed in his footsteps, even though they didn't spend a lot of time together over the course of her life because he was in jail. But, Charlize Theron is just very cool. And, she's the only one that isn't really a thief at the beginning. And the other plug I got to make was this movie debuted the Mini Cooper as maybe the coolest car alive. And Charlize Theron rocking that Mini Cooper was just next level.
It really did. I mean,
it
was the old Mini Cooper before and the new one because this movie
it felt like a Bond movie, Ryan. I mean, it was like, when Bond would debut his new Aston Martin or whatever the new car was that Bond was driving. Sometimes it was BMW when they signed with Bond. It really felt that way in terms of the debut of the Mini Cooper.
So well said. So I don't know if this will sway our Charger comparisons, but as you kind of alluded to, but I'll just double click on it. Charlize Theron, when she does enter the movie, she is a safe cracker just like her dad, but she's a freelance safe cracker for FBI, CIA, the government.
Yes.
So she does it for the good guys and then ends up getting swayed to join this bandit of brothers to go and be a thief. Next on the list, I'm going to leave one of these for last. So next, let's go to Handsome Rob, Mr. Jason Statham, one of the best characters in the film.
Handsome Rob. He's sort of the driver. He's sort of the face of the crew. He's the handsome guy. He's the one who gets all the girls, and he's the one who's sort of the getaway driver, and he's always living life on the edge. He's a thrill seeker, adrenaline junkie, and all the other guys in the crew really admire him to no end and his ability to sort of get the most beautiful girls.
Yep, exactly. I mean, it's right. It's Jason Statham. What more do we need to say? Next, you got Seth Green playing Lyle. What we got with him?
Lyle is the computer genius, and he's the one who hacks into all of the DMV mainframes and can do all kinds of very interesting things with computers. He's a computer genius, and he is the self-proclaimed Napster. He has told the crew that he was the original Napster, that his college roommate stole his ideas. It was a verifiable fact. He was the original Napster. And so at certain points in the movie, his crew has to call him Napster just to sort of validate that he in fact was.
Yes. Justin Timberlake, who played Parker in The Social Network, stole it while he was napping. That's what they called it, Napster.
Yes, sir.
Then you got Yassine Bey, or as most people know him, Most Def, playing the character of Left Ear.
Left Ear is the explosives expert. And so he's the one who, he knows all about C4 and all of the detonations and whatnot. And he's been blowing things up since he was a kid. He sort of, bombed, sort of a toilet in his school. And it was such a, sort of rabid explosion that he actually went deaf in his left ear. So that's why he's left ear, because it's a node to, his left ear being hearing impaired. So he's got the hearing aid there. Super cool dude. The explosives genioso.
Yeah, what a fun title, explosive expert. And finally, you have Edward Norton, goes simply by Steve in The Italian Job, but he is the heel, if you will, if you're going WWE terms, of The Italian Job.
Well, Steve, Edward Norton's character, is Judas. He's the one who betrays the crew and steals the gold for himself. But, his character over the course of the movie is one with no imagination. And even when the crew is deciding what they're going to do with all the gold, he just basically says, I'll just have one of whatever everyone else is having. He's got no imagination. And that's kind of the riff back and forth between Wahlberg's character and Norton's character, is that Wahlberg is the chosen one, the true sort of successor to David Sutherland, whereas Edward Norton was not, because he had no imagination, and that's always a slogan that keeps coming up to describe Eddie Norton.
Yes. Perfect. Perfectly said. So, all right. So picking Chargers players. How do you want to, do you want to just pick characters at random? Do you want to go down the list that we started with? How do you want to do it, Jamal?
We can do however you like. Right? It's dealer's choice. This is, this is the Las Vegas edition of the Bull Chop.
Let's go with Seth Green, Lyle, the Napster computer expert. Who are you portraying from the Chargers to play the character of Lyle, or just how are they perceiving their season in a computer expert style, if you will?
Right. I think the Lyle of the 2023 Chargers is Kellen Moore. I mean, I think he's the guy that has been here now. He's the one who's got to kind of schematically come up with the code, the playbook, the creative algorithms here of putting these guys in the right place. And I think when you think about the computer expert of Lyle, I think that's Kellen Moore. Look, what was the biggest knock on the Chargers season last year and in years past? It was offensive coordinator. It was play calling, play selection, lack of creativity, lack of being vertical, lack of getting the playmakers the ball. Well, now you get the tactician, the expert, the guy who understands the X's and O's, the algorithm of football, if you will. That is Kellen Moore. And to me, that is that is Lyle's character.
I mean, that's the answer. That's the perfect answer. I can't top that, but I'll try to go someone different, so we're not the exact same for that. But I agree with everything you said. I mean, he has to be the guru, and not be caught napping, if you will, to quote the movie, and always on his toes to make sure this offense goes the way that it needs to be. So I will, just to be something different, I'll go Corey Linsley. I think he's the center that was brought in, 2 years ago, was the prize signing of the offseason, became at the time, I believe, the highest paid center, which Lyle did at the time when they first stole the gold. He's one of the highest paid people in society until they lost it or whatnot. But the center, for those that don't know, obviously is the quote unquote smartest player on the offensive line. They have to know every player's role. They know the checks, the call downs of the defense. They have to know exactly what the linebackers are doing. So in their head, categorically, there's, doing a lot of different things going on besides just one job. If your job's ballistics, the center has to know that, has to know all these different things. And so Kellen Moore is the correct answer, but I think Corey Linsley is a close second to play Lyle as the expert in.
I love that. Smarts. What a great pick. I mean, the center has to be, outside of the quarterback, the most cerebral position in the game, and arguably even with the quarterback as the most cerebral position. And so love that pick, right? You nailed it.
And I mean, to add to that, the center is never the face of the team. They never get all the credit. They never get all the love from the media. They kind of hold together. Lyle was, he's not Mark Wahlberg. Seth Green, he's 5'2". Like, he doesn't get all the love and all the credit, but hey, they wouldn't have gotten what they got.
No, you can't do it. He, arguably the most, irreplaceable of the crew was Lyle.
Yeah, you're not changing LA traffic without Lyle to get to where they wanted to go. Great scene, by the way. All right, let's go left ear next. The ballistics expert, the boom, if you will, in Bolt. They put the boom in Bolt. Who you got for playing?
To me, the boom in Bolt is Derwin James. I mean, I think when you talk about explosive plays on defense, the ability to move all the way around the field, make the big hits, make the big impact, be that ultimate sort of chess piece on the board, and just make a lot of noise. No one can make noise on the field from a defensive standpoint or a schematic standpoint as Derwin James. And so to me, Derwin James is the ultimate left ear of this Bolt Job crew.
You keep taking mine because that is absolutely the correct answer. But I will go. So I got to scramble here. and pick it. Okay, so I could do an easy and just pick another defensive player. I mean, it'd be easy to go Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa as another boom, if you will. But I'm going to go back to the offensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go with, let's see here. I'm going to go with Darius Davis, and here's why.
I like that. Okay.
Because the Chargers last year lacked fireworks on offense. They lacked the big play. They lacked the boom. I thought about Jalen Guyton. We've talked a lot about him, Jamal, as I think he's kind of been slept on. But Darius Davis was drafted for a reason. At this time, he'll probably be given the opportunity for a bigger role, and it'll be up to Guyton to take that away from him. So when you're looking for a boom on offense, a firework, a big play, Darius Davis is your guy. So I'll go with him as my left ear.
Love it. Can't get enough of it.
All righty, moving up. Let's go Handsome Rob, Jason Statham, or Rob Booker, whatever you want to decide. But who's your Handsome Rob?
Handsome Rob to me is Joey Bosa. I mean, when you look at just, the good looks and the charisma and, the equivalent on the football field of being kind of the captain of the getaway car is leading that pass rush, because nothing gets you out of, dicey situations as a great driver, in a car chase, and nothing gets you out of dicey situations defensively than a great pass rusher that can sack the quarterback and get you behind the chains. And so, that thrill of the rush that you get from the high-speed chases and having someone steady behind the wheel with that charisma, with the cool, and Joey Bosa being that guy with the body, the physique, and just that statuesque play of rushing the passer. To me, Handsome Rob is really Handsome Joey B.
Handsome Joey B. Love that. Love that. So mine, this might be controversial, but I'm going to go Justin Herbert as my, I thinks Justin Herbert, top 5 quarterback, the leader of your team, needs to be of that leader realm. But kind of the way Justin Herbert operates is, yes, he's the driver, just like Handsome Rob. He drives the car. He's the one that's making it go, but he's not that vocal leader that other quarterbacks are that maybe would play this role in this Italian job simulation. So while Jason Statham has no hair, Justin Herbert has beautiful long locks. So that's the one difference, but both very handsome, both very eloquent and composed, if you will. A little more quiet. Handsome Rob kind of doesn't have many loud moments. He's a little more behind the scenes. And when he says something, it means a lot in the film. Like he can say one sentence and everyone takes it, but he's not commanding a huddle in terms of talking and over talking. It's just, hey, I'm going to say this and we're going to do it. And so I think Justin Herbert fits that role of Handsome
Love
Rob.
it. Love
Handsome
it.
J-Bo.
Handsome J Herbo.
Handsome
Handsome Herbo. Yeah, Handsome Herbo.
All right. Let's go Charlize Theron here. Stella Bridger, the daughter of the leader. Who you got for Charlize?
So, Rye, maybe I'll go a little bit more controversial, and I actually have Justin Herbert as Charlize Theron. They both long blonde hair, both soft skin. But what's interesting is that their role in this crew is actually so eerily similar, because if you look at this movie, the rest of the crew was trying to recruit Charlize Theron at the beginning of the film to join them. She's the one who isn't the thief by nature, but she has to sort of get convinced and then realizes that, this is sort of revenge for her father's death. And so then she buys in. So they have to kind of bring her in to be a big piece of the puzzle. And I think that's kind of where we are with Justin Herbert. You can see and sense from what the wide receivers are saying, to Austin Ekeler is saying, to other players are saying, like, this is the time now for Justin Herbert to truly be inside this team's culture, the locker room, be the leader, be the face, be the center point. He's sort of been on the team the last couple of years as a star on the team, as someone who plays really well on the team. But this is the year now it has to become his team. And in many ways, the other players are recruiting Justin Herbert to sort of take on that role the way the Italian job crew was recruiting Charlize Theron.
Love it. Makes total sense. I actually, similarly, in the way you explained the situation of kind of okay, time to show up for the team, take the lead. But I'm going to go a different route a little bit. I'm going to go with Austin Ekeler because he's the guy that's kind of been pushing away. Now he was in difference from Charlize. He was a part of the squad, but then now he's kind of voiced his opinion of wanting more pay, wanting potentially a trade, or wanting to test free agency. He even said in his press conference, well, I got 1 year left of obligation, but I mean, that doesn't mean he's going to be around forever. So if this is his last hurrah, he's going to have to be that face and that mainstay to not only make his equity higher, but also push this team as high as they can, because as Justin Herbert's going to lead this team as far as it can go, a lot's going to be on the backs of Austin Ekeler in terms of the elevation and the distance that they can go throughout the playoffs, at least offensively. So I'll go with Ekeler for my Charlize.
I love that. There. Oh, that's a really nice twist there, right? I like that a lot.
All right, final three. Do you want to do Edward Norton now, or do you want to save him for last?
We got to save Eddie Norton for last.
All right, so let's go Donald Sutherland first. He's technically the leader, but he did die early in the film. So John Bridger, who you got?
With Bridger, it's interesting. I think that, there's a couple of different directions that you could go here, but I think to me, it's Brandon Staley in a lot of ways. He's sort of now become that, that sort of elderly statesman, if you will, in terms of tenure. You could argue it's either Staley or Telesco, but you can argue in both of their cases, in Telesco's case, he sort of peaked in terms of his career. In terms of Staley's case, it's sort of a make it or break it year. Like he's either going to be, he's either going to stay alive or this is going to be the end of Brandon Staley. And so him kind of being that elder statesman and now kind of being, the longest tenure to the coaches, given the swap at OC and in other places. To me, the Sutherland play is actually Brandon Staley.
Yeah, I can see that, and trying to think how I want to position this with Sutherland, because I'm trying to think of it's hard to, like, the character dies off. Obviously, if you do a current person, that's not what we want or should happen, but is it cheating if you go with someone that is no longer there? I don't know, but I'll go with Telesco in this sense. So similar to kind of what you said today, but I'll go with Telesco because he did band this group together. And he is, I think, in my opinion, we're not behind those closed doors, Jamal, but I think from what we've heard, read, met, players, listened to, is a fairly hands-off GM once kind of the season's going. So he's basically built his team, brought everyone together, and then passed the torch on to let it be ran by them. So didn't die off, but once the season starts, kind of takes a step back and looks inwardly on what he can do to help down the line. But once the season's off and rolling, I think he takes a step back and lets the team run kind of without him, if you will. So
I love that, Ryan. And I think Telesco is the right answer. The other angle I may give is it might be Keenan Allen, because Keenan Allen, if he's not dead, he's close to dying. Okay. Just in terms of his injury history, his prime. And in so many ways, he was sort of the glue of this offense for a number of years and the center point. And now that center point is changing. And so the question is going to be, how does Keenan Allen sort of respond this year, moving forward? So you can either kind of take it as the elderly statesman who put the team together in Telesco, or, the center point no longer being the center point and needing the seed to, the next generation, which is Keenan Allen, with the likes of Quentin Johnson and Darius Davis and so forth.
Yeah. Well, and what's crazy is I could be mistaken, but I think Keenan Allen might be the longest tenured player, or at least starter still on his team.
So, I think I would go Telesco or KA.
Yeah, there you go. So, all right, Mark Wahlberg's character, Charlie Crocker, who you got for the new face of the team organization.
So here's what's really interesting about this is that it should be Herbert, right? That's where this should be. But I think you and I both interestingly picked other characters for Herbert because that's kind of where he is. Yep. But I think for this team to truly become a Super Bowl champion, Justin Herbert is going to have to be Mark Wahlberg. Yep. And he is going to have to be the guy that puts everybody in the right spot. Yeah, you can make an argument that it's Brandon Staley. I don't think Brandon Staley is a good enough coach to be Mark Wahlberg, to be very honest. And so I think that there's actually a void on this crew with that one character. And I think it's a guy that I think everyone is going to play. They've been sort of playing it by committee in terms of who's been the sort of the linchpin of this offense or defense for that matter. You could even make the argument that, Herbert, Staley, Ekeler being, sort of the face of the offense. You could make the argument for James. You could make the argument that it should be Khalil Mack. There's a lot of different ways you could go with this. But I think that, to me, is the essence of the 2023 Chargers, is that Wahlberg is being played by committee. And someone is going to have to rise up to truly be Wahlberg for this team to go from a 9-10 win team to the team that we all believe that it can be. So this may be a little bit of a cop-out answer, but truthfully, in my heart, Ryan, I don't know if there's a Wahlberg here yet. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you, and totally get where you're coming from. For the sake of argument, I have Brandon Staley in this spot, and here's the main reason why. I don't think he's lived up to the stature and hype of what Wahlberg did in the movie, obviously, and is not that Wahlberg character yet. I think in order for this team to go, it needs to either be Staley or Herbert in that Wahlberg role, but I can put Staley in there now for this one singular reason. And I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact quote, but there's a few times in the beginning of the film when Sutherland looks to Wahlberg and says, "It's your call, kid. What are we doing?" Yep. And Wahlberg makes a decision and obviously ends up being the right. Staley's been known in his 2 years as a young head coach that he makes gutsy decisions and he sticks by them. Whether they're right, wrong, and different, whatever you think, whatever decision he makes, he is making, he is living by, and he is dying by. And so for that reason, I think he can play that Wahlberg. Now, will he actually become that leader that can get this team to the next level like Wahlberg did in the film? That's what we hope will happen in 2023. But the fact that he's convicted in his decision-making, and whether you disagree or not, but he makes a decision and he lives by it and doesn't push back on it and doesn't hide away from it in press conferences. And when Telesco or when Donald Sutherland asks, "What are we doing here, kid?" he says, "We're doing this and we're going full bore." So
no, I think that's a really fair point, Ryan. And I think you laid that out beautifully, and you can't argue with that. And I think the parallels there are quite similar, not for the sake of sounding cheeky, but so far, Brandon Staley's tenure has been the leader of the crew who lost the gold up on the fifth floor, from this group. So that's sort of where Brandon Staley is for me. But I completely agree. Conceptually, that's where he should be.
Yeah, he was the homeowner in Venice, I guess, that allowed the floors to collapse. So, all right, final one, Edward Norton, Steve. This can go a number of different ways. So who you got playing Steve?
So, Ryan, for me, Steve is the guy who's the single guy that can blow up the whole plan and, who can sort of unnerve this whole situation, and the guy who's going to sort of detract from the group and could become a distraction. And truth be told, it's Austin Ekeler. And when you think about how much he's meant to this offense, A, he's past his prime. B, he's feeling unappreciated by both the Chargers as well as with the open market. C, to your point earlier, he's already talking about things of obligation and kind of, detracting away from the team. And then D, the Chargers didn't really draft that high at running back for a credible replacement. Went high at the wide receiver position, did some really nice things on defense that you and I have talked about, but there is a hole there a little bit right now. And so, is Isaiah Spiller and, how are we sort of thinking about that and so on and so forth. But to me, Ekeler is the one guy who can sort of, break the threads of this plan in a single way. And for me, Ekeler is Edward Norton.
I had a feeling you were going to go that way, and it's pretty spot on with current players and just everything we've seen this offseason and even looking big picture. It could be, this season maybe ends up being the first 10 minutes of the film where they get the gold, they get the trophy. Yeah. Well, then guess what? Then Ekeler derails it all.
And that's a great point right there.
The 24 season. So I totally can see that. Just to be different again, for me, and this might be cheating, but I'm going to go Joe Lombardi, and that's probably cheating. He's not on the team anymore. But when you talk about someone that was brought in as a member of a crew, that was so highly thought of coming from the system he came from. Remember when Edward Norton kind of came in, it was like, this was a guy he was kind of a protege too. Like that was the rift between Mark Wahlberg and him, was he going to be the next man that was going to take over? Lombardi was getting some head coaching looks after his first season, got an interview with the Houston Texans after his first season as OC with the Chargers. And then you talked about the unoriginality of Edward Norton's character, wanting one of everything. And we look at Joe Lombardi's offense in 2022 and the unoriginality. You have $27 million of gold to spend, and you just want what everyone else has. You have the golden arm of Justin Herbert, and you're going to play like you have a 40-year-old Drew Brees behind center. That is the comparison that I see, is that unoriginality of Edward Norton's character and the unoriginality of Joe Lombardi's offensive play calling with the Chargers in 2022. Might be unfair, but I think it is fitting. So
Ryan, it's fitting that you're wearing a USC shirt right now for this analysis, because that was USC Film School critical analysis worthy right there. Love that. Love the parallels there. Can't argue. I think there's multiple right answers here, but your answer is my favorite answer.
Well, thank you, sir. Tip of the cap to you. This was a lot of fun. I love that this was total improv, and we did it off the cuff. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Let us know if you've seen The Italian Job and you have some thoughts, or if you haven't seen it, but you still have thoughts, or if you just want to talk about The Italian Job, hit us up at LAFB Jams, at Ryan Dyrud LAFB, or at LAFB Network on Twitter, or you can text us. You can text BOLTS, BOLTS, to the number 31032. Jamal, anything before we sign off for the day?
I think we're really onto something here, right? You know, we talked about the Hollywood GOAT QBs. We're doing some fun stuff with The Italian Job. I think we got to let this, we're the LA Football Network. We're in Hollywood. I think we got to let this thing ride a little bit with Hollywood and sports here for the rest of the summer leading into the season.
You know, I think we're the LA Football Network, but I think from June through July, we change our logo to the Hollywood Football Network. Like,
yes,
why not?
Sir.
Let's just have some fun with it. The Hollywood Football Network and do this. So, well, my brother, appreciate you as always. Thank you all for listening and tuning in. For Jamal Madni, I am Ryan Dyrud. Everyone have a blessed rest of your week or weekend whenever you're listening, and we'll talk to you all very, very soon.
You're listening to the LA Football Podcast.